The next morning, Tae realized that after what happened the previous night, he hadn't had the chance to speak with Ja again. The MT had ended before he could find another moment to do so. When they arrived at the university, Tae approached Hakun to let her know he had already unloaded the equipment, but upon seeing her, he noticed that her face showed discomfort. He asked if she was feeling okay, as she looked sick and was sweating too much. Although she claimed she was fine, her body felt strange. After hearing that, Tae placed his hand on her forehead, thinking she had a fever, and while her temperature was slightly elevated, it didn't seem too serious. Then Hakun asked whose fault it could be, since they had been praying outdoors. Tae, not giving it much thought, replied that it wasn't his responsibility and suggested she go rest first while he took care of the remaining tasks with the truck. Hakun thanked him and asked for one more favor. Later, we see Tae dropping off several boxes in the teacher's lounge storage room. After finishing, he felt deeply exhausted and thought about getting some rest. Just then, he saw Aya, who was waiting for him. The scene felt oddly familiar, like déjà vu. Even so, he asked the girl what she was doing there. With a serious expression, she told him she wanted to talk, but not in that place. She wanted to go somewhere more private where they could be alone. Still confused, Tae received a system notification. The event, The Connection Between Us, had begun. So, he led the girl to his apartment. Although it wasn't fully tidy, he hoped it would be enough. Aya, on her part, felt a bit embarrassed being at her oppa's house, but upon entering, she noticed a bright light coming from one of the rooms. Curious, she tried to see what it was, but quickly shut the door, excusing herself by saying the room was messy. In her mind, she had almost forgotten it was his dating game room. Once they were settled, Tae asked what she wanted to talk about. Although a bit nervous, she tried to bring up the events of the other night, but Tae cut her off. He knew she had seen what happened with Hakun, and was sure that it had strengthened her faith. Blushing, Aya asked if he could hear himself. He was saying nonsense. Tae insisted she be honest. After all, both of them had experienced a divine revelation at the same time. Faced with this, Aya fell silent, unable to refute it, and eventually admitted that yes, her faith had grown. Tae smiled and reminded her that he knew everything about her, but he never would have imagined she was into that kind of thing. Now, though, she seemed more averted than he had expected. Not knowing what was happening to her, Aya dropped to the floor. She didn't understand why she had even come to see him. It was the first time she had experienced something like this. Still, she admitted that even before all this, Tae had always seemed different to her than everyone else. Curious, Tae asked what she meant by that. Aya explained that in the past, she'd never been interested in dating boys. Many had confessed their feelings to her, but if she was honest with herself, none had ever interested her. She could even say she didn't feel like she had a heart for love. However, by chance one night, while she was with her friends, they watched a movie where a maid was guided by her wealthy employer toward the path of the Lord to find salvation. In the scene, the woman read the Bible with him. Aya couldn't take her eyes off it. Her heart raced wildly, as if that very scene was speaking directly to her. Driven by curiosity, she began researching more on the subject and gradually discovered a world that made her feel different from everyone else. Tae, in his mind, finally understood why his connection with Ja had faded during their first date. It wasn't that she had lost interest in him, but rather that he had ruined the moment. Ja continued her story, explaining that her interest in religion was something she couldn't openly share with just anyone. With no other choice, she ended up exploring her desire and curiosity alone, trying out different things she had bought. However, in the end, she discovered that Tae was just like her. Even so, she apologized for talking too much. What surprised her the most was that her appa hadn't mocked or judged her. Tae responded by asking if she had come all the way there just to thank him. Ja shook her head. In reality, she had something important to ask him. She wanted to know what he had tried to say to her at the MT. She had been anxiously waiting for his answer. At that, Tae approached her and took hold of the necklace she was wearing. Ja looked at him curiously. Then he whispered that he would make her his follower. The girl was speechless. In his mind, Tae knew that in the city of Milan, there were many kinds of heroines. For example, Hyung was a classic tsundere, tough on the outside but soft within. Lee, on the other hand, was a natural-born leader, proud and dominant in her relationships. Each had their own personality, which meant he needed to use different strategies for each one. However, in Ja's case, he was sure she would follow his commands without hesitation, making her an excellent, devout nun. After playing so many dating sims, Tae believed there was no heroine that couldn't be conquered. Annoyed, Ja insulted him and asked if he was finally showing his true colors. Tae, unfazed, replied that he was disappointed. No one was more pretentious than her, since she had only accompanied him to find answers. While it was true that he didn't fully know her, he urged her to stop hiding if she truly wanted to find herself. He had dealt with many spoiled girls like her before, so helping her wouldn't be difficult. Tae's fate had led him to become her spiritual guide. Ya, turning her eyes away, asked what she was supposed to do. Tae confidently told her to leave everything to him. As the first step, he ordered her to begin singing. The request caught Aya off guard, leaving her completely confused. Tae, seeing her reaction, asked why she was so surprised, assuming she already knew what to do. However, she admitted that no one had ever guided her in something like this before. She had no idea how to begin. Tae didn't know for sure either, but he explained that she needed to find her own path in order to discover the real Ja. So he instructed her to play the guitar. Though Ja was visibly nervous, the system notified that the heroine had reached the required level for the religious scene. Thanks to her starting to play the guitar, they were able to enter the sacred scene naturally. A song came to her mind, and without thinking too much, she began to play and sing. However, insecurity immediately overwhelmed her. She had never sung while playing guitar before and wondered if she was doing it right. What amazed her most was doing this in front of Tae. The embarrassment nearly crushed her, making her want to disappear, but at the same time she felt an indescribable emotion. Though she had done what was asked, she noticed that while singing, her voice began to change. She could clearly see how the corruption in her heart spilled across her soul. But as the song intensified, she confirmed that she really was a... Her eyes then fell on the chalice, which had begun to glow. She wondered if Tae was in pain. His faith seemed to have increased just from hearing her sing. Why, she wondered, had she always considered her Appa to be the worst for being such a pervert, when now she realized she was just the same? She felt like a hypocrite, yet she wasn't ashamed to admit it. What confused her the most was why she found Tae so pleasant. She didn't understand this strange feeling growing inside her. When her song came to an end, Tae stood up. Jaya, feeling unsure, asked if she had done well. He nodded, but told her that there was still one part of the song left. Thanks to his guidance, Ja was able to continue the melody, and at that moment, she had a divine revelation. For a few moments, she felt a deep peace in her heart. A little later, Tae asked if she felt calmer. However, Ja, still disoriented, wasn't sure. It was the first time she had experienced something like this, and she still felt confused. For Tae, however, this was the first step in her journey. He congratulated her and encouraged her to keep going. In the future, if she continued being honest with herself, she would slowly come to understand herself better. His words gave her strength, and she nodded with determination. But when she looked at the chalice, she noticed it no longer glowed. Curious, she asked Tae if he was okay, since she had seen it shine before. He reassured her that everything was fine. Then Jaya picked up the chalice in her hands and expressed her desire to thank her Appa for helping her. If he agreed, she would like to clean it, just as she had done the other day during their date. Tae, a bit confused, asked if that was really what she wanted. Jaya admitted sincerely that she didn't want to be the only one to enjoy such peace. She wanted Tae to also find calm and hoped her teacher would allow it. She asked with a pleading tone, making it clear that she was waiting for his permission. In his mind, Tae knew Ja had a special talent for making a man feel guilty. Because of that, he ended up accepting her request. It was the second time Ja cleaned the chalice, but Tae noticed that her technique had improved significantly. Thanks to the connection with the sacred object, he felt a comforting warmth in his heart. While some guys could only talk to her, Tae had gone much further. In his imagination, he could even picture kissing her. But in reality, she was there, helping him with the chalice. Thinking about this, Tae felt the chalice begin to radiate even more power. Jaya noticed it too, and was surprised to see the glow intensify. However, the light soon became so bright, she could no longer continue cleaning it. Tae was speechless, but at that moment, he remembered another technique that Ja could use to reduce the brightness. Though she didn't know it, he now understood that the Russian technique was more effective than the previous one. Tae, noticing her progress, told her that the versatility of sponges could be very useful. With this, Jaya began to understand how to properly use the technique. In his mind, Tae knew that this famous Russian cleaning technique was something he had only seen in the city of Million, but he also suspected that Ja was hiding the gummy buttons out of embarrassment. When she picked up the chalice and began cleaning it with 2 sponges, Tae noticed her touch was softer than expected. However, as she continued, Ja felt her heart racing, her breathing unstable. And even though she knew Tae was guiding her, she couldn't help but wonder how he felt about it. Was her effort reaching him? Did he like the way she was performing the technique? It was then that Tae sensed the holy water was about to emerge. But it was too late. The sacred gift burst out in large quantity, splashing onto Ja. Still, she felt a comforting warmth from the contact with the water. After drinking a bit of the blessing, something inside her seemed to break. When Tae congratulated her, Jaya suddenly pushed him gently. Tae, confused, asked what was wrong, but with a radiant smile, she asked him to accept her as his follower. This time, she wanted to be the one to read the Bible. Tae tried to stop her to talk, but Ja admitted that from the beginning, she had hoped he would help revive her heart. That's why she wanted to read the Bible, though she wasn't sure where to start. Eventually, she found the right passage and recited her first prayer. At that moment, an unparalleled peace enveloped her. Tae, seeing her, was left speechless. In his mind, it felt like madness. Ja had read the entire passage in one go, without hesitation. That was impressive, but reading it like that could be dangerous. Concerned, he asked her not to push herself too hard and to set the Bible aside. But Ja didn't understand why he was saying that. To her, the pain in her heart was simply because her appa had willed it. However, seeing the worried expression on Tae's face, she realized this wasn't normal for him. Even so, she felt like she could keep going. She still had more to read and didn't intend to stop. Tae insisted she not overdo it, assuring her that in the end, everything would be fine. To calm her, he helped her read the rest of the first paragraph. Thanks to this, Ja found a new sense of peace in her heart, something she had never felt before. But she liked it. Blushing, she admitted to Tae that it felt as if her heart was breaking, and she didn't know what to do. Tae, for his part, thought he couldn't waste Ja's potential. He couldn't let her rest. She had to continue reading the Bible. When Ja asked what was going on, Tae simply kissed her. He knew it might help calm her agitation. For Tae, it was his first kiss, and though it was just a soft touch, it felt perfect. Meanwhile, Ja's mind went completely blank. Her body reacted in ways she couldn't understand. When Tae started touching the gummy buttons, he could see her soul responding immediately. Bit by bit, she was being conquered. Then Tae picked up one of the loaves of bread and tasted it. This increased his affinity with Ja even more. For her, it was a completely new sensation. No one had ever touched her soul like that before. What unsettled her most was how sensitive she was to everything that was happening. Seeing how flustered she was, Tae asked her not to hold back and to be honest with herself. He wanted her to relax and pray. When Tae read from the Bible, Ja was finally able to pray in peace. During the process, she wondered what this new sensation flooding her soul was. Tae, on the other hand, sensed that Ja's heart radiated a special warmth. Her peace and serenity seemed to flow naturally. Could someone pure of heart really have such an effect? Had he found a diamond in the rough? He decided to continue with the prayers. However, Ja confessed with some fear that her soul wouldn't stop trembling. Tae assured her it was normal. It meant she was on the right path. To help her relax even more, he suggested trying a yoga position. Tae's last words left her curious. Now it was her turn to guide the ceremony, though she wasn't sure she was doing it right. Tae confirmed that she was. In her mind, she decided to let go of the guilt for having turned someone into such a fervent devotee. On the other hand, Ja remembered reading that when someone stopped being pure of heart, they would feel a faint pain in their soul. At first, she hadn't believed it, but now, feeling her growing nervousness, she started to doubt. However, praying at her appa's side felt better than playing with any doll. Suddenly, driven by an unfamiliar feeling, she ended up hugging Tae. In that instant, it felt like his soul was transmitting a current of energy into her. Surprised, Tae returned the hug and asked how she felt guiding the ceremony. Ja explained that it was like a current flowing through her heart. Hearing this, Tae decided he would now be the one to guide her on the path of God. She had followed all his instructions correctly, so it was time to reward her. However, Ja didn't understand what he meant. In his mind, Tae remembered he had received a reward for his previous mission, the fast-forward ticket. With it, he could skip directly to the next ceremony. He figured it could apply here too. Without further hesitation, he began his prayers again. The pace of his prayers became more intense. Ja noticed and felt Tae was being a bit rough. But while he focused on her heart, right where she had felt the current, she felt as if her soul was slowly breaking apart. Even so, Tae didn't stop. He continued reading the Bible with determination. This time his goal was clear, to make Ja be reborn as his follower. As the prayers progressed, Ja felt an unmatched inner peace. The current from before coursed through her heart again. Suddenly, she felt as though something dark was being expelled from within her. Could it be that she was purging the corruption from her soul? The sensation was strange and intense. For her, it was the first time experiencing something like that. She couldn't react. Her mind was in a state of chaos. Maybe this was what people meant when they talked about divine revelations. When Tae kissed her, Ja realized in her mind that he had been reading even faster. There was still one step left, the use of holy water. So when Tae asked if the corruption in her heart was truly uncontrollable, she thought about asking him to purify her from the outside. But instead, she looked at him with determination and told him to eradicate all her sins. Her words made Tae intensify the prayers and pour holy water over her, revitalizing her soul. Ja noticed it was a lot of water, but even so, she felt incredibly relaxed. For Tae, his goal was complete. With a firm voice, he told her it was enough and that she should strive to improve even more. Gasping for breath, she nodded, and to conclude the ceremony, she gently cleaned the chalice. Tae watched the act calmly. Then the system notified him that the bond between them had been successfully achieved. While putting things back in place, Ja acknowledged that the sensation of having her heart revitalized still lingered. It was strange, but at the same time, she felt consecrated. Then she asked Tae if she could take a bath. He gave her permission, though in his mind he thought the ceremony had been a bit intense for a first time, but it was done. He believed that from now on things would go smoothly with Ja. However, he suddenly noticed that she was heading toward his secret room. Alarmed, he tried to stop her, but it was too late. Ja had already opened the door. Before her eyes was his collection of figures and posters. She stood speechless. Turning to Tae, she asked what all of that was. A bit later, Ja was heading home, still thinking about what she had seen. Before she left, Tae explained that the room was part of his past and asked her to forget about it. However, she just smiled. At least she had discovered something new about her lord. On her way home, she began to sing with a radiant expression until she suddenly felt a sharp pain. She couldn't believe it. How was it possible that she was feeling that again? The next morning, Tae looked particularly gloomy. He wondered why everything always turned out badly for him. No matter who he was with, things always seemed to get complicated. He was sure that Ja now saw him as someone weird. He grew even more discouraged, until he noticed someone right in front of him. It was Al. The girl greeted him, and he returned the greeting naturally. Curious, Tae asked what she was doing around there. She mentioned she was looking for Assistant Hung, but to her surprise, no one was there. This intrigued Tae. He took out his phone and called Hung, wondering if she'd had a rough day or perhaps gotten sick after the MT. However, getting no answer made him feel uneasy. Lee, noticing his concern, smiled mischievously and asked what they were going to do now. Tae, lacking enthusiasm, said he just wanted to keep working. In response, the professor made an unexpected proposal. She suggested taking Tae somewhere else.